And here we are at the Maze Island Palace. This palace is much more difficult than the previous three palaces in my opinion, as the enemies are much tougher and there's a lot of those like annoying parts where you can just keep falling and dying, and we'll be getting to that shortly. Once you head down the elevator, head to the right, and we are first going to come to some armored Stoffels. So here's a blue one, and it'll like just huddle in its little bottom portion, but it'll eventually jump out, get the points bag, and defeat it. And you know, they are good experience points, so you don't want to just avoid them, but they could be a bit challenging, especially if they keep just like falling down in the hole, because you can't hit them. You have to wait until they jump, and you have to go close for them to jump out, and it could be rather difficult. But they do give you 70 experience points, so it is worth it, I suppose. Head down the elevator here and get off to the right, and now we have a red armored Stoffels. Kill them and head to the right. You might want to use the jump spell here, because this is a very difficult jump to make. You have to literally jump at the last second, so use the jump spell if you need to. Afterwards, kill the tin suit, and here we have one of these doom knockers. This is a very open area, so it shouldn't be too hard to defeat him, even though I'm taking an unnecessary amount of hits, but the downward thrust works well. Here's some more of these, what I consider rather lengthy jumps. Like they seem easy, but you just can't get lazy. And there was a doom knocker right there, but he just moved off screen and he might have fallen into lava. He'll be back though. There's an Iron Knuckle statue here. It might come an Iron Knuckle, it might come a red jar, so be prepared, because if that is an Iron Knuckle, if it hits you once, you might fall in that lava, so be careful. After you get the small key, I use the jump spell here because, hey, there's the doom knocker, because I think it's I had a free spell to use basically because I just got the magic jar, and it's easier too. Just head back to the west and we'll get back to this hole here, and we can actually fall down this hole. It's actually some advice that we got in the previous town. Hold to the right and land over here. There's a tin suit here, there's a bubble, and there is also a doom knocker just nearby. You can defeat this bubble just using the downward thrust. Be careful though, because the doom knocker will also throw an axe at you. So once you defeat the bubble, you can defeat this doom knocker if you'd like. Just use the downward thrust, or you can avoid him if you really want to. I think they could be a little challenging, but once you get more accustomed to them, they sort of are free experience points really, because the downward thrust does take care of them. Here we have a few armored Stoffels. Just defeat them, just run up to them, duck, and attack with your sword. And you might want to use your shield spell here, because we have another one of these blue Iron Knuckles. Luckily, now that we have the upgraded sword, these guys are not nearly as difficult as they were in the previous dungeon. However, it's still the same challenge pretty much. You can do the jump slash attack, and it works, but you'll probably take some damage because he's constantly throwing swords at you. Alternatively, you can just try to match his swords one for one, moving up and down. It takes a lot of hand-eye coordination, and even the best of Zelda players might have some difficulty with this guy. Eventually, you'll defeat it, and here we got the boots. And this, just as the townsman said in the town of Naburu, this will allow you to walk on water, and we will be using this. We're not obviously going to use it inside the dungeon, we will be using it after. Head back to the west and fall down the hole, and just hold to the right, and now we want to continue along to the right. This is a similar area like we were earlier, and just like before, you might want to use the jump spell, because some of these guys could be rather challenging, especially these doom knockers. You want to be careful, and you don't want to fall in the lava, because that'll happen. This is one of the more difficult areas in the dungeon, I think. So make your way across, and to top it off, there's a few bubbles. You can just wait for it to come to the top, and then just wait for it just like I did, and then use the downward thrust to get rid of it. I think that's the best method, and you're better off defeating it than avoiding it. This statue is actually empty, so just get the key that's left all the way in the corner, and now we can make our way back to the west. if you killed all the enemies, they will be gone, but if they just fell into the lava, they will be restored here. So be careful, don't fall into the lava. Here we have these like dragon heads or Medusa heads in a way, that they just have this circular motion and they just continuously come after you, and they're rather annoying. There's actually a limited number of them though. If you actually kill them, they won't continuously come. Here's another new enemy, and it's known as a Wizrobe. Wizrobes were in the original Legend of Zelda, and they basically take the exact same form here. You cannot kill them with your sword. However, if you use your newly acquired Reflect spell, you can reflect their magic back at them, and that is pretty much the only way you can kill these Wizrobes. So do just that. Now continue along to the west, and we have another one of these rooms with these annoying wolf heads that just keep going up and down, and they just keep shooting at you. And you can see there is a small key waiting for you here. What I like to try to do is create a staircase of sorts, and you can see I created one like that, but even now it could be a little challenging to get out safely. I used the upward thrust. This was one of the first cases where I actually used it. Like I said, you don't use the upward thrust too much, but I find it useful against these enemies and in those situations. You want to get rid of these simple little bots here and make your way back to the elevator. And here we can head all the way up. Since we fell down 2 floors before, we have to go through a couple floors, and now we're back at the top. So now we can head all the way back to the west, to near the entrance of the palace. We went through these were some of the first rooms we went through when we first entered the palace. There's a few Wizrobes here. You can use the Reflect spell. The one thing about the Reflect spell that kind of stinks is that it uses a ton of magic, actually. And in some of these rooms where there's Wizrobes in like almost like consecutive rooms, unless you are getting magic jars as rewards, you might run low on magic, especially if you haven't gotten all the magic jars. In this room, we want to first get rid of the Iron Knuckle. Then we want to use the jump spell, and then use the upward thrust that we just learned. And this is one of the places where it's sort of required. And you can just break the block and defeat it. This bubble can be very annoying because it's sort of like a tight spot, so I would still try to defeat it using the downward thrust method. But if you don't actually have the upward thrust, you can actually get by this area by using the fairy spell, and you can get like taken right through the locked door, and then you can just head all the way to the west to the next room. Once you pass, there's a few tin suits, and here we have another Doom Knocker. And I've used the jump spell, and sometimes when I use the jump spell it throws off my jumping because I'm not used to jumping that high. But continuing along to the west, and here we have another one of these rooms with these blocks. This time there's thankfully no wolf heads, but instead we have a Doom Knocker, and there's a points bag just waiting for us at the bottom. You can use the up thrust to break some of these, or just do as I'm doing with the jumps. And I'm attempting to get underneath this Doom Knocker, but I'm also moving to the left. Like it's like you can create your own path pretty much with these things, and you want to be careful because I didn't want to break a block right under Doom Knocker, otherwise it'll fall on me. But I got the small key, or the key, and now here I'm going to battle Doom Knocker. And I try to stay like in this situation where I am right now, where I'm one level behind because his axes won't hit me. However, he tends to stay away from you more times than not. So you can like do a little bait and switch, try to get him to come closer and then go in, but it's a little like sometimes the enemy artificial intelligence is, well, more intelligent than you might think. So in this case he's not really cooperating with me. Sometimes he does. So I'm just gonna, quit being a little slacker here, and I'll go after him myself. Eventually. And there we go. There's Impatient Mossy at his best. And great, I only took one hit. The reason I was so cautious is because I was really running low on health and magic now. So, but make a little staircase here, break the blocks, and head to the room to the right. And join me for the next video when we will complete the rest of the palace.